Welcome to Network Today. I'm Cheryl Powers.
I'm Rob Bliss.
And we're here to take you from meeting people
to making money.
That's right. This is where we're all trying to go. This is where we're trying to take you. So if you're new to this, right, and we're on episode 9 already.
We are number 9.
Oh, my goodness. So you want to go back and catch the other episodes. But really, we're here to take you through that long game of relationship building. But we want to shorten it a little through our tips and tricks so that you can get to the making money part faster.
Yeah, it's not all about going to happy hour, having a beer.
No.
We've got to make money. We got to pay the mortgage.
Yeah, that's right.
We got to send the kids to college.
Yeah. For some people, networking is not working. So we're here to make it work for you, right? And the topic today is a good one. It's kind of near and dear to my heart because as we go through this journey, I think we start experiencing this like never before, and that's burnout. The big B word.
Big B word. The big bad word, burnout.
That's right. So Rob, you're always Mr. Happy. How can people tell if you're nearing burnout?
I think I just become quieter.
Okay. All right.
And my energy level drops. I think with that, I do a pretty good job of faking it by, having the big smile and trying to be happy. But I think there's definitely an energy drop when I'm sort of feeling get to that burnout stage.
It's so important to identify, and the people we'll be talking to about this, right? They're kind of subject experts on it because they've just been through this for so long. Really, it's identifying this and having other people help you identify it.
I think it's really, really important on that. We're all kind of conditioned to have to go to all these events. Yep. Events, meet new people, collect business cards. And, we're human. We only can do that for so long.
Yeah.
And then we get to that point where it's like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. I'm tired.
Yeah.
And, here's the thing too, Cheryl, is that the fact that we're not getting the results with all this hard work.
So key. Yeah. It's easy to stay fired up. Well, you're kind of new into it. But then when you realize, oh yeah, I'm just not working and I have no purpose, no goals, I'm not achieving anything. And then at the end of that, you're not making any money. I mean, yeah. But it's easy to early on, hey, it's kind of the honeymoon period,
the
right?
honeymoon period is fun. And we've had some great guests on board that have really kind of given us some good advice about, how we need to be on purpose. We need to set goals. So I'm excited to share that with the audience.
Yeah. Sage advice. So are we gonna ask some questions?
Well, you know what I want to tell you, I want to throw this at you, Cheryl. I want to put you on the spot here. I want to ask you, what is your number one thing that caused burnout in networking?
Now, I have yes in my heart. Right? So I say yes. It's really important, and we're going to hear this from some of our experts that we tap into, that learning to say no is part of how you can curb that potential burnout. We can't just do everything. Right. So that's for me one of them. The other one is, I think, having that plan and being intentional when you get in there, that gives you the results to fuel you to continue moving on into productive mode. Right. So you're actually making meaningful relationships that lead you to money. Maybe not immediately, but you can start kind of seeing the end of that road a little faster. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. I read a good book out of Rob's library called The Power of Who by Bob Bodine, who is actually a local author. And what he shares in that story is the fact that you don't need to network anymore because you already know enough people, and that we need to spend more time with those people.
Yeah.
And so, again, we're chasing all these different events. We're collecting business cards, but what are we doing with them?
Yeah.
And I think for me, the burnout factor comes with the fact that, how much money are we making? Mm-hmm. It's the beginning of what you say all the time, meeting people to make money. And, the burnout, it's easy to come that way if we're not making money.
That's right. So I know you've heard this so many times, but I have to go back to my radio career. And And we just go around the room and our sales success story, and somebody would say, well, I'm making friends for the radio station. I mean, you're never really making any money, though. I mean, they were always the ones that you knew there was going to be fallout there. Yeah, making friends is one thing, but moving that into productive mode is another thing. And so avoiding burnout by having a plan, by being focused, being intentional, being prepared, removing the distractions, all of those can help you get past or at least curb that burnout. I think.
Absolutely. I think that's what's our goal here at the show is to be able to teach this skill set of networking, which I think we all take for granted, to be honest with you. At least I do.
Yeah.
I just I'll just go to an event and it's the happy hour. Going to have a beer with my friends. Get an opportunity to catch up with what's happening. But I lose focus on why I'm there.
Yeah. Well, and you had a situation this week where Wednesday, we're at multiple events. You and I both, right? We end up at the last place together. We're having these great conversations with people about business building and making better decisions. And but it was late. And so then what happened the next day for you with all the networking events that you had on your schedule?
Yeah. I mean, again, becoming overwhelmed. And then I had only had one event to go that evening, and I didn't go because of burnout.
Yeah.
And again,
or avoiding it.
Yeah, or avoiding it.
Yeah.
I didn't have the proper planning.
Yeah. 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 So there we are. So talking about burnout, it can sound a little negative. So what we're going to do is talk about our grand slams, which are real successes of the week when we come back.
Are you a creative or entrepreneur with a business idea that needs just a little bit of help? Purple Cow Branding is the best digital marketing agency for your small business. Whether it be your website, social media, branding, or even video production, we're here to help your business be outstanding. Go to purplecowbranding.com to find out how we can help you. Purple Cow Branding, much more than digital marketing.
So let's talk about our success stories, Rob. Do you want to go or do you want me to go? We can arm wrestle?
I want to go. I want to go first because I got a good one.
Okay. All right.
I met or reconnected with Lynn Barrett this week. Great. And she is a phenomenal lady. She's been running a Dallas Lunch and Learn for, I don't know how many years, 7, 8, 9 years. And I connected with Lynn just before COVID. Probably a year or so before that. And she has a monthly lunch and learn at the Coffee House, Preston and Campbell. But Lynn is just the ultimate connector. She runs a marketing company. She knows everybody. And again, I encourage everyone to go to her Dallas Business Lunch and Learn, which you'll see up on Meetup. But, I was going through that part where I said, I need to reconnect with people. I already know enough people, Cheryl. So I was going through my file and I came across Lynn's name. So she actually kind of, during the COVID period, kind of closed shop to a certain, from the networking point of view, right? Still had her business going very strong. And I said, Lynn is awesome. I miss her.
Yeah.
And so I gave her a call and then she says, Rob, perfect timing. I'm, like 2 weeks, I'm starting my lunch and learn, blah, blah. We've been talking for the last 2 months now, twice a week. And we've become good friends. And before that, it was I just kind of knew her as the host of a great event. So she didn't really know who I was or whatever. And that's what the whole thing about, getting to know people better. So now I'm talking to her. She started another breakfast meeting that she invited me to. She's introduced me to, I want to say 5 to 7 new people that I need to follow, that I'm following up with right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. It's like, boom, this one person, this one connection had been dormant in hibernation for a couple of years, right. But by following up, I got to pat myself on the back. I was proactive, going through my list of who I haven't talked to, knowing that she was like a superstar.
Yeah.
And boom, hit a grand slam. How about you?
Awesome. Yes, that's a really good one. And Lynn's such a great lady. But it's all about, people and keeping in contact with them. So that's where I'm going to go with this. So avoiding burnout, again, you can get really, really tired of dripping on people.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I've been dripping forever. So in this particular case, I knew this couple, a husband and wife, through this is a business. This isn't necessarily networking, but this is about staying in contact with people, right? It's building those relationships.
Right.
And they had become members of mine, but through a different company. And her husband is the chief at a large place here in the Metroplex, the Collin County Appraisal District, and 8 years. 8 years of dripping, right? So when you talk about, like, you can totally get burnout and you can just say, screw it, I'm just done, right? Or you can just kind of move them into that little drip campaign where every 3 or 4 months, I send a personal message and say, hey, Mr. Daffin, have you, just here's some new news. Reach out. And what did he do? Reached out. And he said, hey, Cheryl, so glad to hear from you. Like that was the first time. But hey, so glad to hear from you. We need you now. Right?
Wow.
Huge. And it wouldn't have happened had I just said, hey, screw it. I'm just so tired. Right? But it's the discipline of just being prepared, sticking with it, and then you net that result of a huge financial win, right? So that's
it's great. I mean, it's great the fact that, the follow-up that we talk about, right? That you were doing that still, and now it paid off.
Yeah. And it's hard because you want the big wins initially, like immediately, like we're in this instant gratification world.
Be patient.
That's right, grasshopper. So there we go. So that was my big grand slam, and it was really a huge over the fence. And I was so thrilled that, and to that point, so we dial forward, and I wanted to check in with him to see how we're doing. And he said, yes, I'd love to. I think I'll send you some referrals, right? Because that's what happens when you begin to build relationships on a really good, solid ground, right? So, yes.
Well, all right. Kaboom.
That's right. So coming up, we're going to talk to the master of avoiding burnout. Jack's amazing. So we're going to talk to him coming up next.
Are you having trouble with your VoIP phone system? Smart Office USA to the rescue. We're a local company here in DFW with real people, certified technicians, and we even come to your office to help you. Smart Office USA, representing the #1 VoIP phone system on the planet. And we are right here in DFW, ready to help you. Call us 214-272-0921 or go to www.smartofficeusa.com.
Well, it's always a great day when Jack's in the house.
All right.
We have a fun guest, a smart guest, and has an amazing background. And I'm going to actually let him spell his last name for you and give you the things that will help you remember it so that you can talk to him and look him up later. So it is Jack
Kearney, and that's spelled Kearney. And every time I give a speech and people have trouble pronouncing it Kearney or Kearney, I always tell them, you drive a car and this is your knee. It's Kearney.
That's right.
Kearney. Hey, I like that.
Not too hard.
Kearney.
Yeah, and people actually remember that.
That's right. And he's got just an amazing background. You've got a legal background, right? A finance background. M&A, you help take companies through the whole cycle of preparing themselves for exiting. I mean, there's not much that Jack doesn't know. So that's why I thought,
very, very nice compliment.
And you've been doing it for just a couple of years, a few minutes, which is why we thought we're looking down the little list. Jack, burnout.
Oh my goodness.
Topic. There's the topic. It's just for Jack. So having gone through years and some career changes, right? So you've been doing what you've been doing for how long?
Well, since 1986.
Since 1986.
Yes. Began my career as a CPA, then I became a tax lawyer, and then finally corporate finance investment banker.
All right. With?
Well, initially it was with Shearson Lehman Brothers, two names in the Museum of Investment Banking.
Yes, and Smithsonian.
Men and women who were so arrogant, they went bankrupt.
Yeah.
And currently?
At Dumas Capital Partners, I'm one of the co-founders, and I'm the head of investment banking for Dumas Capital Partners.
All right, and he's going to spell it for you because it's not how it sounds.
Dumas.
That's right. So the S is silent.
That's right. And we actually founded it based upon the author, Alexandre Dumas, the French author. Three of us founded the firm, and we were big fans of his writing, including The Three Musketeers, The Man Behind the Iron Mask, The Count of Monte Cristo. But this is Texas, so we frequently say Dumas Capital Partners instead of
That's
Dumas.
right. That's right. Hey, y'all, it's Dumas. That's right. So since you've been doing this since 1986, have you ever experienced burnout?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
And
How did that manifest itself?
I just didn't want to do anything. I wanted to stay home. Wanted to get together with friends like Rob and drink whiskey.
There you go.
Instead. But my anecdote or my cure for that is freedom. And to me, that's an extremely important value. I actually won my freedom shirt. And you had referenced earlier Christopher Cross's song, Sailing.
Yeah.
And sailing was something that my wife and I have done when we lived closer to salt water than Dallas, Texas. And it always gave me a great sense of comfort, relaxation, fun. And so I think of freedom as my anecdote. It allows me to do things that I want to do, like you and I, Rob, are Rotarians.
Right.
And so some of the things we do, which are very fulfilling for us, aren't about having fun. It's about serving other people.
Yes.
And we're free to do that in an organization like Rotary. And so for me, freedom is one of the great values in our country and certainly in my life. And I like to utilize that to get away from the craziness of things that I have to do.
Now, Jack, you're very active in the networking community. What advice would you give somebody that's just getting started in networking so they don't, so they can be proactive and don't reach that burnout stage? Or is that something you're going to eventually happen to you?
I think it happens periodically to people.
Okay.
And I think you do need to have a plan in place. I've learned organizations that are helpful to me in networking, and I continue to go to those organizations, go to those meetings. I don't necessarily feel compelled to be there at every single meeting, every single month.
Right.
That's part of being free is not, feeling like you have to be there.
Right.
I have avoided organizations that I felt were not in my best interest. And let me give one specific point is early on in my networking career, I went to organizations and included a lot of B2C folks. Okay. And in my experience, that was not a particularly useful way to network. Yeah. Their focus on consumers was, 100% different than my focus on B2B referrals.
Right.
And so I decided I am not going to organizations that are primarily focused on B2C people. And not because they're not great people and wonderful people, but it just doesn't help me with my business.
Sure.
So the freedom to say no.
Freedom to say no.
Yeah. Helps you avoid burnout. I'm interested to know if you are finding yourself in a burnout stage. How do you, like when you're in the forest and the trees situation, right? Do you pull yourself out through an accountability partner? Like, how did you get yourself out of that burnout and say, hey, now I know I need freedom? I mean, because at some point you didn't know, and at some point you discovered you did know.
Well, I have a great accountability partner, and she and I have been married for almost 44 years.
I love it.
And so, if you've got that kind of relationship and you actually spend some time, talking to each other,
right.
And not just living in the same house.
Yeah.
Dolores has been a wonderful, I guess we met 49 years ago this past February at breakfast. Wow. 44 years in August, we'll be married. And she knows me certainly better than I know myself. And sometimes we'll have a conversation and she'll say, are you okay? And if you can give an answer, yeah, I'm fine. Or you can think about the question. If an important person in your life is asking you a question like that, are you okay? Take the question seriously and answer it honestly. And sometimes she'll ask me that question and I'm not okay.
And be prepared to take action.
And be prepared to take action. That's correct.
It's one thing you can acknowledge it and I can say, no, I'm not really okay. And then they can say, well, let's figure out a way to kind of get you out of your funk, out of this, so we don't avoid any further diving here. And then some people don't want to get out of the nosedive that they're in. So you did, obviously. So is that the point that you discovered freedom?
Yes. Yeah. But I think I valued freedom my whole life. Part of it's economic freedom, part of it's social freedom, part of it's religious freedom. I know you and I share a lot of commitment to faith values. That's extremely important to me as well. But Lord Acton, who's most probably famously known for power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. One of the things he said is that liberty is not about what I want to do. liberty is about what I ought to do. And that's a very different concept. And again, but getting back to our lives as Rotarians, we spend a fair amount of time and financial and other resources committed to something that we think we ought to be doing, not necessarily something that's fun.
Right.
But because we're doing something we think we ought to be doing, having done it brings joy.
Yes.
Joy helps overcome being being burned out.
Hence, this is why I left my cup. Right? So when my frown is upside down, I have my cup, right? So so it can be small things that you can do to help get that nosedive back in, an upward direction. And so I know for me, I've got a couple of things that I do, but I don't do it often enough. So when you're saying you experience burnout kind of on not an ongoing basis, but periodically,
yes.
Identifying that it's happening periodically is important. So do you schedule times of freedom in advance to try and keep you from hitting those burnout periods?
Well, absolutely. And for me, one of the things that has always helped me relax and feel free is athletics. I work out, 5 or 6 nights a week, and I work out with people who support me and whom I support. We have fun together. We harass each other and kid each other. But physical activity, particularly in fairly intense physical activity, has always helped me. Helps me sleep better at night. It helps me feel better about myself, and just improves my performance overall.
What would you say what are some of the things that cause this burnout? Give us a couple of things that have happened to you that, when you reach that burnout level.
Well, there are occasions, for example, when we're working on a transaction. Some transactions are relatively easy. All transactions to some extent are hard, and some are just an extraordinary pain in the neck. As you're approaching perhaps a closing that you imagine may never close, notwithstanding the fact that you've worked really hard, sometimes I say to myself, why am I doing this?
Yeah, yes.
I could be working at a McDonald's and eating hamburgers and having fun instead.
Yeah.
But you get to that point in my business career that's happened. But in many cases, for example, in a career perspective, when I've hit a point where it's like I felt burned out, I've made choices that have dramatically improved my career, taking the next step.
Okay.
I always tell people I began as a CPA, then became a tax lawyer. And the biggest frustration I had in both professions is I had to account for my time in 6-minute increments for billing. And it's like,
oh my God.
I hated that. And that's why I don't do that anymore.
Yeah. That's why you wear sailing shirts and you sit here with us and chat about staying out of the burnout phase.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Well, so as we wrap up, would you share a little known fact about yourself, personally or professionally? I know I didn't prepare you for that. So
That's okay. It was fun. When I was in graduate school and law school and business school, I had a friend, and he was doing the JD MBA program with me at Duke as well. And his dad was a very, very successful businessman in Connecticut. And it always amazed me the things that Jim knew about business. And we were learning, and he was always saying, wow, that's really smart. How did you know that? How'd you figure that out? I goes, we talked about that at dinner time. I listened to my mother and my father who ran the company, and I was learning about entrepreneurship and business just like eating a ham sandwich. He said, what did you talk about? I said, we talked about criminals. What? You talked about criminals? Well, my dad was a New York City police officer, and 20 of those 25 years, he was a detective. And so when he'd come home and we'd talk about business, his business was stopping and apprehending and convicting criminals. And so to this day, when I walk down a street in a city, I am talking to the person next to me, and I'm looking in the window to see who might be following me, because that's what cops do in New York City, is to make sure no one's attacking them from behind.
That's right.
So my dad was NYPD.
I love it. Men in blue, women in blue,
Yes.
our people in blue. That's awesome. So I love you're bigger than life character, and you just bring so much to the table. And also one of the things about Jack that you're going to see on my networking calendar, right, that you see all the links online, is that he is the co-runner of one of our mid-market professionals. groups. So mid-market professionals west. And if you want to see Jack in person, make sure you RSVP for that. And it is when?
It is always the second Thursday of every month. And it's at the Cheddar's at Alliance Town Square.
Mm-hmm.
And we bill ourselves as being focused on 76ers, people who live, work, and are targeting companies in the zip codes beginning with a 7-6.
That's right. But they don't exclude those of us who are in the 75.
Yes.
So that's right. They do allow us in once in a while. So, Jack, a pleasure.
Thank you.
And next time we talk about sailing, he's first in line.
Sailing.
All right.
Absolutely.
Only if we have Christopher Cross in the background.
Okay. We'll get the rights. Buy the
My top
rights.
side is ready.
That's right. Thanks, Jack. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.
I always learn something when I talk to Jack. He's just a wealth of wisdom.
He is, again, he's so smart. I mean, CPA, lawyer, now, investment banker. You can't get any smarter than that.
And husband of 44 years. Can't get any smarter than that.
He got that right.
That's right. So talking about burnout, and I thought he gave some excellent insight. I want to know what some of the points that he hit on really hit with you.
Well, I think he talked a little bit about what Brooke talked, and overwhelming is that you've got to have that balance in your life. The thing I think, the number one thing that's really struck out was, again, the accountability partner. And how fortunate
That's
is
what I was going to say.
How fortunate he is with, having his wife of 44 years, which is totally awesome. But yes, I think that's something I personally, I don't have that. And, I'm walking away with this right now. I'm going to be talking to my wife tonight because she is a great woman. But I really think that is needed in our high pressured work culture that we're in. It's go, 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 go. And we're human beings. We're going to get that burnout factor.
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to, share that with somebody. I think that's our nature. So I think I'm going to walk away with what Jack said about, the accountability partner.
Yeah. And I'm right there with you. That was the first thing that really hit home with me. And I was thinking about also what he said is you have to have an honest response. Because it is easy, especially, so maybe it's a best friend that you hang with a lot. Maybe it's a workout partner. Maybe it's a business partner. Maybe it's a spouse. To when they ask you, so how are you doing? Oh, fine.
Right.
I mean, I think we just kind of check the box. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. And I'm bad about that. In all transparency, that's a real problem for me. My husband knows that I don't want to just open up because I'm it's not the time. I got other things to do. I don't want to, that wasn't part of my discussion time that I was allowing for today. But I was thinking about, I was going to tell you that I'm really, just in all transparency, probably feeling a little burnout at this point in my life. So this was a really hot topic for me. Haven't gotten there yet, but you kind of start feeling oh my gosh, if I could just sleep until noon on Saturday, it would all be over. But I was thinking about my husband, Brett, how when I was in radio, 30 years of radio, he said he knew it was time for me to go when the joy on my face was gone. Right. So I think we all have to figure out what those little pain points or those signs are that are going to tell us, hey, or tell the people in our life, we got a problem. Because you don't want to get into that burnout stage. If you can just get singed a little, and I'm going to get out and get back into the water before I actually get the full burn. Because it's hard to come out of a nosedive if you get total burnout.
Yeah, and you can't do it alone. And I think that's again being salespeople. We're highly motivated, we're driven. We can do it by ourselves, and that type of mentality. But when we come to that burnout factor, we've got to let go, and we've got to have good people that will help us get through that.
Yeah, and take time to breathe. Even if it feels like you're costing yourself money because you're not out working, it's going to cost you a lot more in the long run if you don't nip it in the bud now.
Absolutely.
And we're going to still work on that accountability partner, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right. Maybe it's the great Susan Bliss. Who knows? So can't wait to talk about the subject some more because I know it's going to come up again. Burnout's a hot one. So thank you, Jack. We appreciate you. Let's face it, employees waste time on the company dime. Why? Life's complicated. We help keep the junk of life out of the workplace and in the hands of the experts. Empowered Advantage, empowering employees, giving businesses the advantage. Letter M as in magnificent, poweredadvantage.com. So love Jack, love our guests. He had so much sage advice.
So much wisdom.
You know what? We could do this forever because we have so many good people in our life.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that what networking does?
Absolutely.
It's what helps you to avoid the burnout. So I want to ask you, as we kind of put a wrap on this, what your number one. So if it's a newbie in networking and you want to say, hey, do not do this. If you want to avoid burnout, do not do this.
Number one, by far, get an accountability partner.
Ooh, that's good.
Somebody that you can trust, someone that you value. Jack was, so lucky. He has his wife, 44 years. Why, is that awesome or what?
Yeah.
44 years. But, to have someone that, that understands who he is. Because again, being out there in the business world, it's tough, Cheryl.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah.
And, we do have those down times. And to have that accountability partner to help you overcome that. We can't do it alone. And so really, I'm really going to take this to heart. Is I've not had an accountability partner. I don't know why. I think it's that whole ego thing of I can do it myself. But no, what Jack talked about really hit home, and I'm going to do some thinking this weekend about. And I think I got a great candidate in my wife, who is an awesome business owner herself, an awesome woman herself, and a great partner. So I've got some thinking to do this weekend.
Yep, you do. Thinking and talking, and I'll tell you along those lines. So I like where you're going with that, but I have to take it a step further based on what Jack was talking about. And I really feel like having an accountability partner is awesome and it's important. It's pivotal. But if we're not honest with our answers, what's the point?
Right.
So for me, if I want to tell you, while you're new to networking, be honest with the people around you. And if you are, like Rob, kind of getting into your quiet space, you don't want to talk to people, find a way to have a real honest conversation with somebody you trust. And I'm not I'm not that person. I'm sorry. I don't have it in me to just like, just throw it all out there. So I tend to hold that.
I've got a good book for you.
Yeah.
Daring Greatly, Brene Brown talks about how to reach your full potential, you've got to become vulnerable.
Okay.
You've got to have that transparency before you can go to that next level.
Okay.
So there's my little nugget for you.
All right. So my top of my to-dos list, and this is what we're challenging you to do: get an accountability partner and be honest with that accountability partner. Right. And I do think that accountability partner needs to at least know you or be able to understand what you're going through on a pretty deep level.
Absolutely.
Like it can't just be a pen pal.
Right.
Do they have pen pals anymore? Like where did that come from?
That's a great question.
I know. Where'd pen pals go? So anyway, there you go. Burnout. Like, let's all avoid it.
Yeah.
To the best of our ability, or at least kind of curb that.
Yeah.
And we want you to join us. We want to hear from you. So networktodaydfw.com, that's where you're going to, down here, right? Go there,
right.
Bookmark it. You can email us at info@networktodaydfw.com and give us subjects, right? If you're like, oh my gosh, this is something I'm dealing with and I'm not hearing you guys talk enough about it or at all. This is about you, right? This is about all of us kind of going through this journey together. So,
well, I think it's really important again. Absolutely, Cheryl, because again, networking is something I think is the skill set of networking is overlooked. We take it for granted, and we really got to drill down and learn. And I love what we're doing here. And like you said, we love to hear from the audience of what we can provide, what tips, what tactics, what questions they have.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So another thing you're going to find there is my networking event calendar. So you're welcome to go. That's a great place to start. And many people are starting their own event calendar.
Right. Yes.
So mine's the letter M, poweredadvantage.com. You're going to see the DFW events calendar there. And we'll at least get you started. So if you're like, I don't know where to go. Oh, that's a great place to start. Other amazing resources you're going to find there, like your through all of your networking.
Yeah.
What do you call it?
the networking resources
That's right.
on purplecowbranding.com. Once you go to purplecowbranding.com, on the nav bar, you'll see free resources. We've got some great free tools there for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've got a networking, what did you call it though? It's accountability.
The scorecard.
There we go. That's what I'm looking for. The scorecard.
You got the scorecard.
Bam. Okay. The scorecard. He's also got a great networking sheet for one-on-ones. And then you're also going to see on demand. So if you sign up for our emails, you're going to see great videos on your Rob's Library,
Right.
on tech tips, our man on the street, right? The mystery detective going out to networking events and more. So can't wait to see you next week on Network Today.
This has been a Purple Cow production.